The mission of Urban Peace is really to help save the lives of the next generation. People can change. It's not once a gang member, always a gang member.
Prevention, intervention, and violence interruption.
We're a nonprofit social justice organization. This series is exploring the work of peacemakers and the efforts on the front lines to reduce and prevent community violence. Today, we are speaking with a well-known intervention worker on the streets of LA. His name is Andre Lowdown Christian. Thank you for being here, Andre.
Thanks for having me.
So this is, it'll be very conversational, but, tell me a little bit about your story. Why'd you get into this work? This work doesn't pay a lot. There's not a lot of accolades, but there's a lot of risk, a lot of pressure. What makes you interested in this work? What made you get into this field?
Tired of being tired, because when you come from the streets and, if you know better, you'll do better. And you start seeing, different things going on. You start getting wake-up calls from jail to being shot and things like that. And it's like, when is it going to stop? So then you start getting around positive people, because our parents, well, most people parents, they always been trying to teach us to go in the right way. And we feel like that's old fashioned, or y'all just old, this is what it is now. In reality, I wish I would have listened. I had to go through a whole lot of things before everything started making sense. And it makes it easier to deal with the youth of the day, because when you're trying to talk to them, it don't seem like they're getting it. They don't want to listen. I was one of those same youth feeling the same way. So now I do everything I can, to bring peace in any situation, with gangs, domestic violence, anything that had to do with violence, because one way or another, it leads up to the jail or the cemetery, period, point blank.
So, what is it? What is the role of gang intervention? It's called a lot of things in a lot of places. So street outreach workers, violence interrupters, gang intervention workers, which we use in LA. What does a gang intervention worker do here in LA?
It's different levels to it. It's not a cookie cutter situation. You have some gang intervention workers, they can walk up and, talk strong to younger cat in the community. You got some gang intervention workers, they can finesse, kind of talk, kind of soft, being that voice of reason, making them look at it more than just one way, at the negative way. So everybody, like once you start doing the work, everybody has their own twist as a whole to do it. At the end of the day, you just want to come with a peaceful outcome, however you need to do it. You don't want no violence to happen through that conversation. And, like with the LTO, license to operate, you have to know certain situations that you can't touch. You might have to go to somebody else and have them touch that person, because if you're in a community, you pretty much know who runs them circles, because every community, you have a community within a community within a community, and it's circled and it's clicked up and stuff like that. So it's not no one person to just make a call. So when it comes to stuff like that, you get that go-to person, you talk to them about the situation, and you kind of let them spread the message, what you're trying to get done, what you're trying to stop, what you're trying to resolve. And that's just having your LTO license to operate and knowing how to use it. Because a lot of times guys get into this work and they feel like because they're a CIW ambassador, they can't say no or let me deal with it. Sometimes, they might even get into saying I can handle it when you really couldn't handle it. And they make it bad on us, because if I call your community and I'm depending on you to take care of something and you tell me you got it, I'm gonna feel like you got it, versus you could have told me you don't have it. And then I would have reached out to somebody else that do have it and dealing with it. And, we kind of start going back and forth, with the peace mediations. And that's in community and out of the community.
Thank you for that. Intervention is, it's not for everybody. What do you think are the best kind of prerequisites, or what background do you think people need to be really effective intervention workers or peacemakers, particularly around community violence?
Definitely having a heart and backbone. Now, it always helps if you were a part of that and was a part of that community, because I was one of the ones that felt like if you never gangbang, you really don't have too much to offer. But I was lying to myself, because I done dealt with brothers that have never gangbanged and been around them, family, whatever, but it's like they studied us like lab rats. So they can tell you some stuff and give you some tools to use as well, while you out there doing the work. So you can't shut down guys that have never gangbanged and say, what do they know? How can they tell me? You definitely have to stay open-minded to that part of it too. And having them conversations and help me through a lot of situations too, other than going in with aggression, because when you're trying to change and be something else, you know how to respond to negativity, but it's a change when you're trying to be positive and negative is coming at you. Is how do you respond? Just like you don't have a script on it. It's like the other part when you was in the street, it was like an automatic. You come at me aggressive, I'm gonna come at you more aggressive. Now, when you're being positive, you come with aggression. Okay, how do you deal with that without being aggressive and come to some kind of understanding where everybody is all right? So that's one of the transitions that everybody got to have to learn, because after you did more than half of your life of being negative and knowing how to respond to negativity, then all of a sudden you wake up one day and say you want to be a peacekeeper. It's a process. It's definitely not an overnight fix. It's a process.
Yep. So you've been involved in a lot of kind of mediations, making sure, whether it be kind of mediating, making sure that the police aren't overstepping, between mediations between maybe neighborhoods that are having disagreements, or even individuals that are having disagreements or misunderstandings. Can you maybe share a scenario? I mean, you don't have to go into give all the detail, but maybe share a scenario or a time when you had to utilize your skills as an intervention worker to ensure a peaceful outcome.
One that's fresh on my head when you say that, and I use it sometime. It was a guy from a different community. I'm not going to even say a rival community. He came over to our community on Facebook Live and was disrespecting dead homies. You had one of our homegirls on there walking her dog. He said F you and just going big, early in the morning live. So when that went on, the word got around who it was and what community. Well, he said it wasn't even a secret, and it's broad daylight. And, some of the younger guys from my community pulled up on me and was like, low down, man, man, what's happening with this? And, getting on me. So, man, let me check on it. Let me see what's happening. Just stand down. Let me check on it. So once I called over to that community, the funny part is when I called over to that community, the first thing they said is, low down, I know what you're calling for already. We already own it. So as they started looking around and seeing what was going on, I called them the next day, hadn't found out nothing. Maybe that second or third day, I got that phone call that they had caught up with him. Then they invited me over there, and they let me know how they dealt with it and things like that. And they actually had a video, and I tried to get the video from them, but they didn't want to give me the video because it wasn't nothing like for social media, anything like that. They would just let me know that they had took care of what they needed to take care of in dealing with the guy. And so what I did is brought some of the younger guys out of my community over to their community to see the video and how they had dealt with that situation. So the word can go back to the community. And then on top of that, the guy was still putting disrespectful stuff on Instagram and things like that. They made a phone call, took that off instantly. And that's how we resolved that. So the word started traveling versus it being some back and forth stuff going on, because, the people in my community felt it was a lot of disrespect besides dead homies, and you pulling up on a home girl that's not even active like that. Just stay over there in the community, walking her dog, never have even been out there like that, pulling up. So it was a lot of disrespect with it. But at the end of the day, it wasn't, no one got hurt, other than a couple of words being exchanged in the process. And once that word spread, how everything was dealt with, haven't heard anything else about it. So we came up with a peaceful resolution, and that's stepping out of the community.
Yeah, and I'm sure that de-escalated tensions, quickly because it was addressed.
Yeah.
So when people say, hey, look, I'm a peacemaker, there's a lot of folks out there that say, hey, I do intervention work, I'm a peacemaker, XYZ. How are you able to tell or differentiate, right, between the folks that are, doing the work on the front lines and those that are just really talking about it, or even just doing it more politically to kind of, try to get funds for political reasons?
You assess everybody, because I have conversation with guys a lot of times, and see, that's one thing about it. When you're in this work and you from the street, you have them spidey senses, and you hear cats talking, they this, they that, and all that right there. And they not, and instead of just saying you political You this, just say what you are, because we see that right there. You can just feel it. If somebody not right and they talking about they could do too much, I can stop this, I can stop a train and watch, I'm this and that. Okay, if that's the case, we wouldn't have all the interventions, CIWs, and ambassadors. We just go get you, tell you to snap a finger. And you have a lot of guys that really blow themselves up like that. I don't know if their purpose is to get a check, they're trying to impress somebody, but anybody who's actually doing this work, no, that's not what it is. And you're going to get found out sooner or later, and really in town halls. And that's why I always welcome town hall meetings and get together, not to have an argument, but you'll find out people say more when they're in a quiet room versus sitting around a table with people who actually know you. They don't have the same story.
Right. Right. How far, when did you get started in the work? Maybe you can share a little bit about that, or how you got started in the work, and then how you've seen it evolve over the years.
I started like in 96, and I always say 96, it was because I was still kind of straddling the fence a little bit, still trying to keep a roof over my head and still doing certain things. And it was like I was really actually doing the work before then, but on a negative way, not with the positive part of, stopping a lot of stuff and saving a whole lot of lives. And then when it got closer to maybe 2000, that's when the professionalism and things started kicking in. I started looking at stuff in a different light, than just saying I'm a peacekeeper, I'm in the gang intervention and things like that. So, various trainings and stuff like that, like stuff I just really didn't know. And the trainings helped me out. It's like when I first started doing trainings, I was saying, what is a training going to teach me? What am I learning in the training that I don't already know from the streets, with me being in the streets so long and out there? And once I started going, I wanted to go to every training I could find, because it was like just lights started coming up in my head that I'd never even thought about, never looked at things a certain way. I just had pretty much one way of looking at things, win. That's the bottom line. We had to be the victorious one, whether it's right, wrong, or whatever. We had to be the victorious ones. Then when you think back, fighting over community and property that's not even yours, all the lives, all the mothers you see crying, all the people that's still going through trauma, stuff that happened 20, 25 years ago, and you would think it happened yesterday. But a lot of times when you're on the giving end and not on the receiving end, you don't look at all that right there. You just feel like you won. And at the end of the day, you didn't win. All you did was damage a family, hurt a family. It's not even so much have to say a killing, just a mother even having that fear if they baby gonna lose their life or not, being in the hospital, hearing gunshots and don't know if that's your baby, walking in the door. And there's so many different pieces to it right there. And you just start having that love for community and people, because and peer pressure stops a lot of the guys from getting out, because like I tell people all the time, I had a lot of peer pressure, because it was like, how am I going to try to talk to guys about being cool with this guy and that guy? And I know they done killed your brother, they done killed your sister, your family, they done shot up the house. And here I come talking about some peace. So how are they going to look at me? How are they going to talk? So I had a lot of peer pressure. A lot of times I get around guys, I didn't even really want to share what I was doing, and it was like, that's nothing but peer pressure. When you can't speak on how you feel as a man because of who's in your surroundings, that's peer pressure. And it's a lot of people have peer pressure right now today. Until I made that decision, it's about, community. It's about these older people. It's about these babies. It's not about the ones that still stuck. I help you if I can, but you're not going to dictate if I'm going to change or not. And, it was a process. That wasn't an overnight fix. A lot of peer pressure came with it.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of intervention street outreach workers that we see throughout the, just even the ones that we know throughout the country is making that switch, right? It's in the academy, we talk about self-differentiation, right? Self-differentiating you. How are you different from, the peers, and you start to separate yourself. And that's hard for people, right? It's a different identity, right? Taking on the identity of a peacemaker, a lot of times it's different than, your previous identities, that you had that were maybe sometimes in that negative. And so, I think that piece is important. Can you talk a little bit about your process to kind of differentiating yourself from that lifestyle? And as you said, you started maybe in 97, it wasn't until 2000, but then, from 2000 to here we are, 2021, where, you're doing a lot of work, throughout, South LA, but also in other cities, and, doing the work with us on the coalition building work. What was that like?
It was like I said, once I got over past the peer pressure, it wasn't as hard because I understood, the jealousy was gonna come with it. And then, I had people tell me ahead of time, and I always give Taco the credit of that right there, because he basically told me a lot of garbage was gonna come with this doing the work. And as well, Dwayne Holmes out of Imperial Courts, they called him Snipe. And he told me, because he used to be in this work, and he basically kind of backed up out of it. And as I started doing the work, I started seeing it. But at the end of the day, I had already made that decision, what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. And I just knew it came with the territory. So I just started doing what I was doing. I wasn't biting in. Every now and then I would slip and bite in when somebody's saying something negative about me, and I would throw it back out there. And then you had so many people trying to push for me spiritually and everything else, because they know I was doing the right thing, and it would kind of help humble me back down, because sometimes I would slip up and put them challenges out there because they talking with so much aggression, because I didn't turned over a new leaf. And it was, like I said, it was a process. But when people see you really sincerely trying to do the work, even if they don't step on the front line, they're going to try to help you along and tell you positive stuff to keep you doing what you're doing. And I had so many people say, man, low down, man, keep doing what you're doing. Man, low down, keep doing what you're doing. Man, keep doing. And it just comes out. And then okay, I am changing. Then it's a good feeling when somebody come back to you and say, man, low down, remember the time you told me this? Man, that stick with me right now today. So you start hearing stuff like that, and then it lets you know the work is not in vain. You start feeling good about that. So it is working, because that sometimes you feel like, what am I doing this for? Because like, ain't nobody changing, nothing stopping. So now I tell people, just keep planting seeds, and you don't know when that harvest is going to come. Just continue to plant seeds. Every season, you're going to get a different harvest. So don't look at, oh, ain't nothing grew yet. Oh, ain't nothing happened yet. Don't feel like that. You just keep on doing what you're doing and planting positive seeds. And when that harvest comes, it's going to come in abundance. So that's the way I kind of push it, to just keep on planting seeds. So every season I got a crop.
Right. No, and I see you doing that. I mean, just even the last 2 days, right, with the ambassadors, Monday and Tuesday, we had the ambassador training. There's some people in there that were new, right, that we hadn't maybe seen before in the previous trainings, but then there were some people that came back, to hear some more of it. And so, that's, I think, planting the seeds, I think, is a key point. And then also being able to push through when, there's a lot of frustration when, if you feel that you don't see people changing, but people are changing in their own time. And I think that's, another kind of piece of the work. As far as like a day-to-day grind, if, say, for example, say in the Watts community, where you do a lot of work and have a lot of relationships, how do you kind of take the temperature? And then if you feel that it's hot out there, what steps do you take to engage folks to help be the thermostat and not just the thermometer?
I see who involved, because a lot of times I get phone calls when there's different situations going on, different communities. And once I get that information right there, like I said, the circles and the cliques and who involved, then I start doing my homework, because you do have a lot of people that put rumors and lies out there. Rumor control is very, very big. A rumor gets you killed. So once I start putting my feelers to the ground and seeing what's going on, and then a lot of times you can't share all the information, because sometimes once you get down to the truth, that's going to be just as bad as that rumor. So now you have to kind of spin it in a way, however you finesse it and spin it, because at the end of the day, you still don't want no violence. Whether the rumor control don't mean, and that's where a lot of cats get mixed up at, because when it's a rumor just saying a community member or somebody from a different community did something to this community, you don't go back and say, oh, I found out who did it. It wasn't them, it was them. You still pushing the war. You didn't still pointed them in the right direction, versus you being a voice of reason and saying, we still don't know, but it wasn't them. It wasn't them. It wasn't them. You never sit there and say who it was, because you're going to have people that feel a certain way about if you put a name out there or a neighborhood, they're going to attack them. So you really like accessory. You didn't send them in the right direction while you supposed to be doing rumor control. You telling and you keeping wars going on. versus why are you going to take off on these innocent people because they don't have nothing to do with it. I've been talking to them. They don't have nothing to do with this right here. So that's the way I push it, just suspend them versus sending them. And
it's oh, go ahead.
And that's in and out the community as well, and that's why I tell people I don't just stay and watch. I move around on the outside because a lot of the times it's the outside coming in. And when you don't build in relationships on the outside of the community, when something happens, you're trying to figure out who got who number, who can I call. But as you build them with nothing not going on, it's real easy to just pick up the phone because you already built a relationship and you know who's who in the zoo in them different communities, and you know who to call and who not to call. Because I've had, intervention workers where certain situations I would even call certain ones, okay, not for this right here. I call him for this, but I ain't gonna call him for that. I had a situation going on kind of right now, and it was kind of like a boyfriend, girlfriend thing. So happened, different communities involved in it. And, I talked to one guy trying to be real nice with it, more level-headed. Then when I saw it getting a little more ugly, I had to touch somebody that's still kind of boots on the ground with it. It wasn't no disrespect to the other guy from that community, but I know this guy was still kind of rough around the edges and had that direct connect to the one I needed to reach out to. It wasn't one of them things like, oh, let me find his number. Let me see if I see somebody got his number. When I called the guy rough around the edges, he said, wait, hold on, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. So that means he already had that kind of relationship with him. And, so that's what I do. I start like an A, B, and C when it comes to dealing with the community because I know that person and how deep he in and how deep he out when it comes to dealing with some of the hard heads.
Yeah, no, that's the work, right? Leveraging relationships and understanding who's connected to who. So we talk a lot about the challenges of this work, it's dangerous, et cetera. But what would you say are the most rewarding aspects of peace work?
Pulling people out and showing them another way. That's the best feeling you can get when they say they want a job. They tired of this. Get me away from that. Them are the best conversations you can have. I mean, because when you talking to a guy and he talking about all bets off, his own and this and that, then a few weeks, couple of months later, he talking, man, I want a job. Man, I'm tired of this, man. I'm tired of looking over my show. That's the reward to me when it finally sunk in. And I know it's a process. And that's why I tell people all the time, they say, oh, if you had your life to do it again, would you? Yeah, I'm glad I was in the street. I'm glad I gang banged because now I'm not judgmental. Because a lot of people that's never gang banged have been a part of the street, they judgmental. Oh, they stupid. All these resources out here, all they had to do is go to school, this and that. But you don't know how it is. Just like coming up with the peer pressure. You don't know how that person felt when their homeboy got killed. You don't know how different things felt. It got them into this position right here till it seemed like the norm. But you're going to be judgmental. So I deal with people on where they at, not where I think they should be. And I just work with it from there.
Yep. No, that's great. Working with them where they're at, not where you think they should be. What, we have the campaigns, the Alley Violence Intervention Coalition, which you help support and organize around. We have the Fund Peacemakers campaign, and then at the state level, we have the Fund Peace California campaign, and then at the national level, we have our brothers and sisters out there that are pushing Fund Peace. Why do we need the Fund Peacemakers in LA?
We have to have it out there because you have a lot of these guys out here putting their lives on the line at the end of the day. Some of the guys that's doing the work homeless, don't even know how they're going to pay a bill from day to day. And then just even being strategic with the work and more people starting to understand it. And it's like with anything, it takes funding to run anything. And a lot of times, a lot of people just pull on our heartstrings because the compassion, when it kicks in, you would say, I was the same way. I do it. Don't even give me nothing. I don't need no money. I'm just going to do it regardless. I'm just trying to give back because I know what I did. I helped tear it up. So now I want to help fix it. But at the end of the day, if you're not getting paid for what you do, that's going to take away really from the work. And this is a profession now. And, a lot of times guys that can really help you in the street, they can't really help you because they have to work 10, 12 hours, just to pay their bills. They'll make a phone call too if they can versus being boots on the ground. And with us having more boots on the ground, paid individual, boots on the ground, man, people gonna see the work. They're gonna respect the work, especially when they see the big homie in there that ain't got no smut on his name, been all the way 10 toes down with it all the way through. They're like, oh, I want to do that. The same way they gravitate to the gang banging, they gravitate to this peacekeeping. And that's one of the biggest things and the biggest reasons I think it should be here. And the support system. You know, we have a support system, you know, it's Urban Peace Institute, you know, different organizations where you can go to have conversations with, and we need that support at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
Fund peacemakers because it will save lives by the thousands, not by the ones and twos and fews. Please fund peacemakers, period, point blank, nothing else. Fund peacemakers.
There you go.